The Don't Starve universe has some interesting creatures. But much like the Atla universe with their metal platypus bears, Clay decided to introduce the trope of hybrid animals. You probably knew this already, but you still clicked on this video. And to reward you, yes, we are going to talk about every hybrid animal, and of course, talking about their meanings, if they, well, have any meanings. Anyways, there's a lot, and yes, we will be including the single-player DLCs, so let's begin. Starting first with the most obvious combo that some of you may have not thought about too hard. Understandably, of course. Pigmen. These are hybrid between pigs and, well, humans. Yeah, that's right, think of that the next time you make a pigman farm. Now, in real life, pigs are surprisingly intelligent, but the pigmen of Reign of Giants and Don't Starve Together seem to take the stereotypical stance of being dirty, brutish, and primitive. But their human side still shows, with their ability to form a hierarchy and speak, to a limited degree. Oh yeah, and capitalism, woo! To add on to this segment, bunny men are much of the same when it comes to the human side, though their rabbit side has turned them into hostile vegans. Them living in caves also makes sense, as rabbits generally prefer to live in burrows. Next, we will take a trip to the deciduous forest and talk about the mighty moleworm, a combination of a mole and a worm. Yeah, it's generally going to be obvious what most of these creatures are, but what might not be obvious is the worm side of this creature. We already know it digs underground like a mole, and technically a worm, and is shaped like, well, a mole. But if you look at its sprite carefully, you will notice that its rear end is actually that of a worm's tail. You just barely ever see this since it only shows up in the sprite or when the moleworm is whacked. The only anomaly of this creature is the fact that it eats minerals, as neither moles nor worms eat straight up minerals. But that just may be what makes them unique. As a fun fact, the idea of a mole and a worm being hybridized is pretty funny, as worms are actually a source of food for moles. I guess you really are what you eat in the constant, huh? Next up, the humble catcoon. A cat mixed with a raccoon. Like domestic cats, catcoons can be, well, domesticated. They are also incredibly playful and will accidentally kill creatures that they deem to be toys, including Glommer. But what about its raccoon side? Well, despite the obvious resemblance, the raccoon side also comes through in its desire to plunder containers, as it can commonly be found attempting to rummage through chester, rabbit holes, and of course, chests. Fortunately, unlike the Pogs from Hamlet, catcoons will never actually take anything out of your chests. They just like to rummage like the little trash pandas they are. Next up, one that might have slipped by unnoticed, because of how rarely players will actually go through the effort of finding one, the mighty koalephant. Which is, you guessed it, a koala mixed with an elephant. This mob doesn't seem to inherit any behavioral aspects of its two real-life parents, since it's neither lazy or territorial. Its resemblance is purely on looks alone, having the ears and wool of a koala and the trunk and stature of an elephant. A nice and easy one to talk about. Next up, the basilisk. An interesting one. This flying pest is a combination of a bat and a basilisk. Now, a basilisk is, that one lizard that can run on water. That's a basilisk. Now, this creature is honestly the only one that had me really stumped. Yes, its bat side is obvious, but it really doesn't resemble or act like a basilisk at all. And if you were wondering if it's based off the mythological basilisk, like the super scary serpent, maybe, but only because of the teeth, I guess. Yeah, this is the only one that had me really stumped, so leave a comment about your thoughts on this anomaly. Survive long enough to see your first snowfall, and you may just come across these fun little guys. The pengulls. A mix between a penguin and a seagull. Their penguin side is shown because of the majority of their appearance. They also herd and defend their eggs much like penguins. The seagull side comes from their beak, as well as the fact that they will eat nearly anything that they come across, and can be horrible roommates. A simple one, but hey, that makes my job easier. Next up, we move on to the giants category, starting with the one and only Bearger. Bearger is a bear mixed with a badger, more specifically a honey badger. Both of these guys combine to make the same exact animal. Badgers are pretty much bears if they were small. So put the two together and make them giant, yeah, that's scary. Both animals also have a fondness for honey and bee larvae, which makes Bearger's ferocious honey appetite completely understandable. Next up, Moose Goose. Thank you, Clay, for making this one easy. Moose Goose is a hybrid between Guess. Just guess. Yeah. A lasagna dinner. With a moose head and a goose body, moose goose is the symbol of spring, which makes sense. In migratory areas, Canadian geese will flock to these places during spring, have children, and then generally vanish during the summer months. At least, as an Ohio resident, that's my experience with them. As for moose goose's moose side, that can be described by moose goose's solidarity. They only travel in packs of 1, and will not be afraid to gore you with those scary-looking antlers if you get too close for comfort. Now, originally I wanted to leave these next two for the final segment of this video, since they are hybrids of creatures that don't actually exist. First, Dragonfly. She's pretty interesting. You would originally think she's based off of the real-life dragonfly, except, get this, she's actually a dragon mixed with a fly. Shocker, I know. The dragon side is, well, obvious, and the fly side comes with her proboscis, and her form of digesting, which flies will use, where they spit digestive enzymes on their food and then slurp them up. In her case, however, these enzymes are kind of like really fiery. Ouch. And finally, for Reign of Giants, Deerclops. A mix between a deer and a mythological cyclops. Because cyclopses don't exist in real life, yet, I can't say that Deerclops uses that side for her temperament. But the appearance is obvious. One eye and all that. As for the deer side, well, we've got antlers, we've got fur. Yep, checks out to me. This is a certified Deerclops moment. Sorry, I just don't know how to evaluate this critter because, you know, she's kind of half something that just doesn't exist. Anyways, let's get back on track and move on to the seas of Shipwrecked. And let's go ahead and get the easy, more obvious ones out of the way. Crocodogs are, you guessed it, a mix between a crocodile and a hound. Their semi-aquatic form allows them to traverse the oceans, but otherwise it's all appearance. And finally, the dogfish. Bet you forgot all about this little guy, huh? Yeah, I guess this guy is more fish than dog, however, as he's incredibly skittish, which generally dogs aren't. Next up, the dragoon. Okay, look, so Don't Starve Shipwrecked came out in 2015. Back then, the word goon had an entirely different meaning. And yes, this is a hybrid between a dragon, much like Dragonfly, and a goon, who, at the time, meant a violent, aggressive person who is meant to intimidate people, as can be seen by their general stature and the fact that they literally live in gyms. Let's all just be happy these guys came out in 2015 and not 7-ish years later. Ooh, I get nightmares thinking if they were. As for their dragon side, well, much like Dragonfly, it's kind of obvious, both in appearance and actions. Oh yeah, fun fact, that also means these guys are part human, and we use their hearts to craft things on a volcanic altar, which is, interesting. They also used to look like this before they were overhauled, which is, could you imagine that? That would have been so funny. Next up, the Crabbit, who is supposed to be a mix between a crab and a rabbit, except it has no physical similarities to a rabbit at all, and all of its behaviors can be considered crab behaviors. Crabs burrow in the sand, are opportunistic feeders, and will generally try to flee from situations rather than fight back. They even used to be called crabs until Clay changed it for some reason. Oh well, it's just one unexplainable hybrid so far, or, well, 2 if we're counting the Basilisk. Anyways, let's move on. Now let's go on to the fun ones, the bosses. Another mythological hybrid to start us off with is the Quacken, a hybrid between a kraken, which is a mythological sea monster who takes the form of a large octopod, and some form of bird. The term quack makes it seem that Clay is implying that Quacken is part duck, but they do not quack or have any duck-like features. Instead, Quacken shrieks and makes a high-pitched noise, more akin to a form of parrot, which would explain the beak, since it has breathing holes, which squid and octopus beaks do not have, because, you know, water. So my guess is that Quacken is a form of parrot mixed with a kraken. Next up, the tiger shark, a mix between a tiger and a shark, which ironically is a real-life thing that's not a mix between a tiger and a shark. I know, it's strange. Welcome to Don't Starve. This creature is probably the most hybrid of the entire constant, by the way. Let's talk about its tiger side. She can breathe on land, has a litter of shark kittens who she ferociously protects. She has the color pattern of a tiger, the eyes of a tiger, which you can collect by the way, the ears of a tiger, and if you rarely catch her taking a snooze, she curls herself up like a tiger. The shark part? Well, we have the whole swimming thing, the dorsal fin, the teeth, and the fact that sharks also have litters. I love Tiger Shark from a design standpoint. She's a perfectly and easily explainable hybrid that works amazingly. And yes, we will go over the Windy Boy, not yet though, because he gets his own segment. First, we must travel to the world of Hamlet. And get ready because Clay really must have loved their hybrids when they were making Hamlet. There's a lot. Starting with the humble Mance. Yeah, I don't know why, but Clay really loves adding human hybrids. These guys are a mix of specifically male humans and ants. This can be seen primarily in their design as they have more human stature than an ant one. Behaviorally, however, they are pretty much all ant. They are guided by a queen who is a womant, a female human ant hybrid, and will defend their nest passionately, especially the Mant guards. These guys also have a lot of implied lore and theories surrounding them, but this is an overview video and they'll be getting their own in due time. So that's all for now. Now on to our second moose hybrid of today, the hippopotamoose. This hippo-moose hybrid is pretty obvious in its design, with moose antlers and a hippo body. But I can't for the life of me figure out why they behaviorally are a moose, or really even a hippo. They act like really docile hippos, which is strange considering how territorial they are. That's right, they only are defensive if they get attacked, which is an anomaly, for sure. But I'll just chalk this up to Clay logic, because yeah, it would suck if these guys were hostile. Next up, the platapine. A scourge to lotus farmers everywhere. This platypus-porcupine hybrid, appearance-wise, is a perfect hybrid, consisting of a platypus bill and webbed feet, and a porcupine's defensive quills. Behaviorally, however, it's pretty much all porcupine. It's only defensive, eats lotus roots, platypi are not herbivores, rather carnivores, and it will turn into a ball to speedily navigate the environment, much like a familiar blue hedgehog, which is a cousin of the porcupine. But hey, at least it's got that platypus bill. As a side note, I just talked to the king platapine, and he said that anyone who subscribes will have free lotus protection, so yeah, do that. Thank you. Next up, the weevil. Yeah, I bet you didn't know these guys were a hybrid. The weevil is a mix between a weevil, a type of beetle, and a vole, which is a small mole. This is a case of having the appearance of one creature while acting like the other. The weevil part of the weevil is shown in its appearance, having the frame of a beetle, but it acts like a vole, burrowing during the daylight and appearing on the surface at dusk to feed. What an interesting little critter. Alright, I'm just gonna get this out of the way now and say that this next one kind of sucks, and it is my least favorite hybrid in the entire game. Not from a design point, but because of how Clay implemented it. The spider monkey. Keep in mind, originally it was supposed to look like this, but then Clay scrapped that design for a more apish design. The problem is, it's still called a spider monkey. I see no tail, which means that this is not a monkey. The only monkey-like features these guys have are the fact that they live in trees. But like, how? They're bigger than the trees. They're so much bigger than the tree. You know what? No, I'm not doing this right now. Clay, why did you... Why? Why'd they abandon the original design? Otherwise, if these guys were called spider apes, then I would totally understand it. Anyways, let's finish Hamlet off strong with the one and only Pugilisk. Remember the Batalisk from earlier? Well, this creature here is a perfect hybrid between a pug, a small form of dog with a particularly dumb, in a cute way, face, and a mythological basilisk, a snake-like creature. Unfortunately, the Pugilisk shares no behavioral features of a pug, and due to basilisks being mythological creatures, I can't really comment on that either. Still a goated design though. Before we get into the non-living hybrids like the rock lobster and such, first there are a few Don't Starve Together exclusive hybrids that we must talk about. You know, the version of the game you probably play if you were watching this video. Starting first with the naked mole bat. This is a hybrid design between the naked mole rat and a bat. And design-wise, it's actually really cool. It's built like a mole rat, but has these cute tiny little wings that it will use to hover sometimes. Behaviorally, both these animals are similar, liking dark spaces and being somewhat territorial, so the only difference is being flight. Yeah, this hybrid is pretty cool. And honestly, kinda spot on. Good job, Clay. Next up, the summer boss, Antlion. Now, Antlion is probably the most unique creature on this list. Why? Because everyone gets its hybrid wrong. You may see that name and think, oh, this is an ant and lion hybrid. Well, you're wrong. It's actually a hybrid between an antlion and a lion. But I'm assuming the name Antlion Lion didn't stick well in the Clay meeting where they were designing this foe. It has a body shape and mandible of an antlion, while having the mane and temperament of a lion. There are no ant features on this creature, or at least none that can't be described as antlion features. Wow, I said antlion a lot here. Let's just move on. Now moving on to another boss, Malbatross. This creature is a hybrid between a marlin and an albatross. It has many scales reminiscent of an aquatic creature, and it has the characteristics of a marine bird. More specifically, the albatross. Most of its attacks show off what hybrid it has as well. It will use its dorsal fin to swat at the player. And the thing that certifies that this bird is mixed with a marlin is its spear attack. Marlin in real life, better known as swordfish, utilize speed and their sword-like appendage to catch prey. Thankfully for the survivors, Clay hasn't implemented getting gored yet, so you aren't at risk of getting swept away by Malbatross. And that does it for the animal hybrids. Oh, wait a minute. Alright, the Forge. Here we see one animal hybrid in particular, that being the Barilla. A mix between a boar and a gorilla. Yeah, like what the spider monkey is like. Man, I'm never gonna get over that massive blunder. Anyways, this guy is literally just like the spider monkey, except for the fact that he also has a charge attack, which makes sense due to him being part boar. And boars like to charge at things. This is a scientific fact. I will be honest though, appearance-wise, he's mostly gorilla. Besides the fur color. But there are some gorillas with that fur color, so I don't know. This is the Forge, man. Before we leave the Forge and head back through to talk about the non-animal hybrids, however, let's talk a little bit about the Scorpion. Yeah, that's right. It's obviously a mix between a scorpion, but what else? Well, if the name is any indicator, then it would be a peon, which is a word with many meanings, most of them, however, meaning one thing. Someone who is unskilled or does work that does not take any skill. Judging by what it does, this kind of makes sense. The Scorpion uses acid to make up most of its damage. Some could see this as being skillless, using something else to do the job for it. Which yeah, dude, Clay kinda cooked with this one. Has a little bit of deeper meaning to it. Anyways, it's time to leave the Forge and start talking about some of the non-animal hybrids. I'm gonna skip a few of the obvious ones, like the fish, the carrots, the boring ones that you already know about, and instead talk about some of the ones with interesting trivia that you may not know about, because that's what you clicked on this video for, to learn something, right? Or maybe I'm just entertaining to you. Either way, whatever. Starting with the Marauder. These guys are downright annoying, but the first part of their name could have two potential meanings. Most likely, it's a mix between marauder and otter, due to their thieving nature. But this could also be a mix between marine and otter, thanks to their affinity for the sea. Yes, sea otters are a thing, but most otters tend to enjoy freshwater more. Or, here's another one you may not know about, the narwhale. Its name being spelt like that on purpose. It's a mix between an entire aesthetic, that being of a punk rocker, and a narwhal. Or what about the pangolin? This surprisingly large critter is a mix between a pangolin and a play on its own name, that being the fact that it functions as a living gold pan. Pretty neat, right? There also is a creature that some players understandably never will come into contact with, the Uwakis. An ewe being a female sheep, and a mucus being, well, obvious. And of course, finally, there's Sealnado, an obvious mix between a seal and a tornado. But what you may not know is that this could be a reference to Sharknado. That super weird film. But a lot more sealy. There are many, many more hybrids that I didn't cover in this video, but most of them are painfully obvious. It was really fun to talk about them, but please, Clay, add the gassy moo to Don't Starve. Please, 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 please.
Gassy moo.
Let me know what your favorite animal hybrid is in the Don't Starve universe down in the comment section down below. And maybe like and subscribe while you're at it too. That would be very cool. Bye-bye, everyone.